up in Sinai, because getting to, Har Sinai, was supposed to travel for a month to get from Midian to Sinai. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure where in Midian he was based, A. And B, it could very well be that when you have these flocks, you go out for weeks and months following grazing to different places. Right?
The desert, grazing.
Huh?
I mean, one would not.
Well, there is, though.
End up in the desert.
But it doesn't mention Sinai here.
It says Har Elokim,
Horeb is
the mountain of God, which is based on the future. Right? I would imagine it depends on the season. It depends on where he was going to find what he was finding. Interesting question. I'm not sure.
Maybe it was a different size. Maybe it wasn't Har Sinai.
So, according to the Medrash, right? What the pasuk says, Har Elokim, is based on the future, right? Right? Perhaps one could argue, right, that this was a mountain that would be similar to the. I'm not sure. Yes, Bill.
Kind of similar to his sister. She says, I'm sticking around to see what will be with him.
Okay.
And now
Interesting.
Here we see it, right here.
Interesting. There are those that say, I think the Medrash says, that God saw that he had turned to see, right? That's actually referring back to page 298. What we read before, the very top verse. And it was in those days that Moshe got older, he went out to his brothers, Vayar, and he saw Besivlotam, Vayar, Ish Mitzri, and he saw an Ish Mitzri hitting, right? Vayar, Ki Ein Ish, that he was a person who was looking to see injustice, who was looking to see those who were being persecuted, those who were beleaguered. God saw that he had turned to see back then. And that is why God appeared to him over here. But in fact, if you take it back a step further, there's a very, very interesting observation we can make. Excuse me one second, I'm sorry.
Listen, he was guiding the sheep. He was by himself. There were not too many people around him.
Therefore,
when he saw a burning bush, it was something unusual.
Yeah, so that's what the Medrash is probably picking up on, right? So what's the big deal that he turned to see a burning bush? It's probably kind of boring out there, right? He couldn't check his email, couldn't do anything out there. There was no reception those days. Very, very tough. No Wi-Fi. Right? Of course he's going to go and see what's going on, right? But rather, it's that he turned to see when he was back in Egypt, right? That's what he turned to. God saw that he had turned to see, meaning God saw that back in Egypt, when his brothers are being persecuted, that's what he turned to see. But there's another point. Let's go back to 296 for a minute. Let's go to verse 5. Now, let's keep in mind, Moshe was royalty. And he was in a very exalted, privileged, safe position. And what did he do? He left that position by helping this Jew who was being beaten mercilessly to save that Jew's life. So he took his privileged royal position, he jeopardized his privileged royal position in order to help someone who was desperately in need. Does that sound familiar? Let's go back to verse 5 on page 296. Vatered bat Paro. Paro's daughter went down to bathe by the river. Venarotea and her maidservants were walking along the edge of the river. Vatere et hateva, and she saw that basket, betoch hasuf, within the reeds, and she sent forth her hand, and she took it to her, and she opened it up. Vatir ehu et hayeled. Right? It could have simply said she opened it up and behold, there was a child crying. Vatir Eyu, and she saw this child. And behold, there was a child. And she had compassion. And she said, this is an Ivri child. And she took the child. So Moshe actually had a certain template that was started by Bat Paro when he was still an infant amongst infants. This was a template of being in a safe royal position and jeopardizing that in order to help someone who is desperately in need. That's exactly what Bat Paro, the daughter of Paro, did in saving Moshe. That's exactly what Moshe did in saving the Ivri, jeopardizing his royal position and having to run for his life. And that is what God saw that Moshe had done. But we have to give credit to the daughter of Paro. And perhaps that is why Moshe's name that we choose, that God uses, so to speak, is Moshe. What is that name? The name given to him by the daughter of Paro. What does it mean? I pulled him from the water. I jeopardized everything to save everything I have to help a person in need. And that became the very essence of Moshe. Moshe constantly jeopardizes everything he has to save those who are in need. Whether it was at this very early point when he went out as a young man and saw the Jew being beaten mercilessly almost to death, when it means going in front of Paro and putting it all out there to save the Jewish people for the Exodus, whether it means later on when we had sinned grievously by the sin of the golden calf, the Chet HaEgel, and Hashem wanted to wipe us out and build a nation from Moshe. And what does Moshe say? If you forgive them, fine. If not, Micheni na misifracha asher katafta. Erase me from this whole book of yours. I don't want to be in it. I want no part of it. Write your own book, but leave me out of it. Moshe was forever willing to put it all on the line for those who were in need, for those who were unable to take care of themselves. That was the essence of Moshe. That is the name of Moshe. That was what Bat Paro, the daughter of Paro, did in order to save Moshe, and that became who Moshe was. That was the very essence of Moshe, putting it all on the line to help others. And that, perhaps, is why his name throughout is Moshe.
And why many Jewish women are called after Pharaoh's daughter, Batya.
Yeah, Batya. Correct. Yes, though. We'll call it over here, my friends.
Okay, so Midrash says about the daughter of Torah, who goes into the water, that she's actually doing mikvah and renouncing the whole thing of the Nile and all the gods of Egypt, and now, boom, Hashem says, look what you're
Okay. She certainly was going against her father's commands and the whole kingdom that had been sent there. Good. Thank you, Doug. I want to close it up.
And she left Egypt with